I hate Ayn Rand. The philosophy of objectivism is so inhumane. It is disgusting, it is repulsive, it's hateful, and it spits on every universal human right. Ayn Rand basically answers the staggering question of what if, like, the villains were the heroes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. In case you don't know, here's a quick explanation. Ayn Rand was a Russian-born woman and book author, whose family was terrorized by the communist government. She immigrated to the US and became famous by writing a bunch of books telling rich assholes what they want to hear. Her philosophy of objectivism has inspired a whole generation of sociopathic douchebags to hijack society and feel fully justified in ruining it. Then she returned from the dead as an evil ghost on my German YouTube channel in my Bioshock review, where she tried to take over my body and plunge the world into 1,000 years of darkness. You know, the usual. Her worldview was an extreme answer to communism, and the fear of the Soviets was also the main reason why she became successful at all. Her philosophy is based on the idea that every individual only exists for itself, that greed is good and altruism is evil. It is for this reason that the creator of Bioshock, Ken Levine, used her philosophy as inspiration for his world and characters, because, in his words, he noticed that Ayn Rand talked like a supervillain. According to Rand, there are two kinds of people in the world: useful inventors and geniuses, and useless parasites that are only poor because they are too lazy to work. And if the superior people could just be rid of those that hold them back, then a perfect world would emerge. So basically every radical ideology ever. To be fair, there is an obvious difference between these ideologies and hers. These ideologies sound in some way nice on paper. Hers doesn't. Imagine if Karl Marx was also a story writer, and he made a book where he describes his communist utopia as the world of 1984. You would not like him very much too, would you? There are countless of websites and books that explain in great detail why Ayn Rand created a pseudo-philosophy, and that her glorious selfish utopia, like all utopias, can't actually exist in the real world. Not that her idea of utopia is one I would like to live in anyway. And here are some of those objections against a complete capitalist and unregulated society. How long do you think you can treat people like shit? How are you going to prevent a society from falling prey to a demagogue? Diseases and natural disasters don't care if you are rich or poor. How is infinite growth supposed to work when there are limited resources in the universe? How is it reasonable to demand infinite growth when the planet itself will die as a result of it? Who is going to make sure that your food and water is not slowly poisoning you? People in the US already have way less regulations than Europeans, and there are chemicals in some products that cause brain damage. It's almost like some people would do anything for profit. Strange. What's the point of enormous amounts of profit? Hell, what's the point of civilization if it's only benefiting a privileged few?
Why have a civilization anymore if we no longer are interested in being civilized?
Why is it that in any human community on this planet there has never been a large group of people without government? Why did all human villages, cities and countries more or less develop the exact same way? Why is it that the first thing any society does is to set up a government, if it's so useless and harmful than objectivists claim? What are you going to do when there's a catastrophe like a financial crisis and there's no safety net? Everyone is complaining about a government bailout in 2008, and rightfully so, but have you ever considered what the alternative would have been? Let me give you some advice. Read a book about the first industrialization sometimes. See how people lived before the welfare state, before the working class fought for all the rights it has now. The thing about utopian ideologies is that it all sounds nice in your head until it actually becomes real and the world has to carry the consequences. It's in a lot of ways comparable with when World of Warcraft players demand a classic server. And Blizzard answers, you only think you want that. Think again. If total absolute capitalism were ever to become the law of your land, I can tell you what will happen. It's going to be like the one South Park episode where Cartman buys a theme park. Which brings us to her magnus opum of shittiness, Atlas Shrugged. Oh, that's good shit soup. That's good shit soup. I already vomited in my mouth a little. Just so you get a glimpse into Ayn Rand's mind that might as well be from the evil within, in one of her books, The Fountainhead, the architect Howard Rourke rapes a woman. Later, that same woman says in the book that she respected this man for just taking what he wanted. I'm not so sure what impresses me more, the fact that this guy is supposed to be a hero, or that this story was written by a woman. Then again, in Soviet Russia, woman rapes you. Atlas Shrugged was turned into a 3-part movie series, one that crashed and burned so hard at the box office again and again that the movie makers needed donations from the fans to continue filming. So, the free market has spoken, saying your movie series sucks, yet you continue it anyway despite the fact that it doesn't make much profit. The irony is so sweet. The story begins. It's the far-off future. The world is economically collapsing. Communism is ruling everywhere except the US, but also the American government starts to become more and more collectivist. But enough right-wing news. We have a movie to watch. We meet a person named Dagny Taggart, businesswoman and owner of Taggart Transcontinental Railroad. She gets a call informing her that one of her trains crashed. Dagny goes to her office where she talks to her brother Jim, an incompetent schmuck with ties to Washington. To help their struggling company, she wants to use a new metal made by a man named Hank Reardon for a new railroad, but her brother objects.
That metal's completely untested. The consensus of the best metallurgical authorities are highly skeptical.
I'm not interested in their opinions.
America in a nutshell. In the world of Atlas Shrugged, that is, in Ayn Rand's mind in the real world, the government and all government-funded institutions are corrupt, because, according to some people, everything that isn't privatized is automatically wrong. But listen closely to what she actually said. She didn't say, my own researchers found that it is safe, or the people who make these reports are incompetent. No, she says, she just knows Reardon's steel is better than anything seen before. I could seriously end the review right now. This is Ayn Rand. This is everything you need to know. This complete disregard for safety is in Rand's little fantasy world the sign of a heroic capitalist, and not that of a criminal who doesn't give a shit about human life, who uses people as guinea pigs. I mean, just think how stupid this is. She wants to use a metal that has not been tested before for a railroad across the continent. So that's how she ended up in Litchfield Prison. Her reasoning is because she feels it in her gut, and that's everything it takes, apparently. This is beyond stupid. How in the hell did anybody ever take this fucking shitty story seriously? How can it be that people put up statues as a reminder of this piece of filth? It's like building a memorial for the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Ayn Rand's philosophy aside, her writing sucks. Who likes this shit? Who donated money to it? Who thinks watching some jerks in suits for 2 hours talking about idiotic bullshit business decisions is entertainment? Oh, and you might wonder, how does Dagny plan to build this railroad with an untested metal in the world of constant government overreach? Well, in the book, she bribes and threatens the officials, of course. Because there's nothing more heroic than putting a gun at someone's head and proclaiming, do as I say or else. Seriously, if you would put half of the disturbing things that was inside the book in this movie, then this would be porn for psychopaths. Even more than it already is. We are not even 5 minutes in, people, and I have found enough material to rant for 9 months straight. You know, I don't think BioShock is a video game. I think it's a documentary from a parallel universe. How long is this video? Fuck, it's going to be a 2-parter. Fuck!
Other people are human. They're sensitive. They can't just dedicate their whole lives to metals and engines. You've never had any feelings. I don't think you've ever felt a thing.
No, Jim. I guess I've never felt anything at all.
Always remember the mantra. Evil is good, good is evil, and Satan will soon conquer the earth. Dagny goes to Philadelphia to sign the deal with Captain Bland. I mean Hank Reardon, a one-dimensional asshole whose only goal in life is to make money.
You
You have more messages, Mr. Reardon. National Council of Metal Industries.
File it.
The State Science Institute.
File it.
United Metalworkers Guild.
Health Inspector, Human Rights Commission, indictment, death threats. Miss Taggart and Mr. Reardon agree on a contract. Then he walks with her to her car, and it is obvious that this is going to be the beginning of a romance. But not the kind of romance you and I know. Oh no, this is Ayn Rand, so it's more like two aliens falling in love with each other. Good day, carbon-based organic life. Do you like to mate? Yes, I like to mate. I think this will be beneficial to me. For the selfish and glorious. It amazes me that the filmmakers would actually show the characters the way they were in the book. I had expected they would at least try to make them look somehow humane, but no, they are sociopathic grandbots all the way through. Later, Hank returns home to his wife. He gives her a present she doesn't like, and the situation is turning so unpleasant you could cut the air with a knife. I almost feel sympathy for this guy, but then this scene happens.
You really don't care about helping the underprivileged, do you?
No, Philip, I don't.
You know, here's the thing I don't understand in Atlas Shrugged. Everybody who is helping the poor or says his business decisions are made for the good for everyone has really some sinister motive. Let's ignore that Miss Rand is using a straw man to make her point. And let's also ignore that this is not altruism, but hypocrisy. Let's not even ask why Miss Rand is realistic enough to acknowledge that hypocrisy exists, but not enough to realize that it isn't limited to any belief or worldview. What really interests me is, why are her characters good and the others not? So, Ayn Rand characters are good when they are ruthless, selfish and greedy. And the bad guys are evil when they are ruthless, selfish and greedy? What? There isn't much difference between those Ayn Rand perceives as evil and those she deems good. Just some minor differences. Dagny's brother Jim uses the government to achieve his selfish goals under the guise of some noble cause, while she and Hank are the representative of an evil system that is apathetic towards human suffering. So I ask again, what's the difference? Because they are honest about it? Is that it? Be an asshole but be an honest asshole? It doesn't make much sense. Why should I, if I am the center of all things and only exist for my own sake, not break all the laws? Why should the so-called parasites feel bad about what they do? It's a winner-takes-all game. So why should the collective, if it's stronger than the individual, feel ashamed if it wins? Nobility is a sham, just like empathy.
But you don't want the public against you. Public opinion, it can mean a lot.
As far as I can tell, it doesn't mean a damn thing one way or another.
The press is against you.
They have time to waste. I don't.
Well, they say you're intractable, you're ruthless, your only goal is to make money.
My only goal is to make money. What is wrong with the world, Paul?
You are.
Well, I ask useless questions. How deep is the ocean? How high is the sky? Who is John Galt?
My drug dealer, now get on with it! Back to the story. Mean government people and Jim discuss how they are going to destroy Rian.
All right, something has got to be done about the iron ore shortage. It threatens the very existence of the steel industry, and I don't think it's fair that one company has its own supply.
Reardon Steel.
Exactly.
It's not in the public interest to let one man destroy an entire industry.
If we're going to bring Reardon down.
When it comes to the economy, Ayn Rand and her fans talk like those people that think aliens have taken their kidneys. Monopolies are bad for the economy. That's why the government is breaking them up. Free markets need competition for innovation and accurate prices. People who advocate for completely unregulated capitalism don't understand why regulations exist. Taxes exist for a reason. Gun laws exist for a reason. For them it's just tyranny and those damn freeloaders and those communists who want to take away liberty, and Red Dawn is always just 1 week away. Of course governments can be incompetent and corrupt. That's not the point. The point is that if they are corrupt, that doesn't make the idea of governments and regulations itself wrong. Equate any government policy with failure. I mean, look at me, people. I am a German from socialist communist Europe. We all have welfare states, our schools and healthcare are free. There isn't a single aspect of my life where the government isn't involved in some way. And still we aren't living in a dystopic third world hellhole. It's hysteria and fear created by the red terror that this woman experienced that drive her ideas, not reason. Don't you think it's a little bit strange that Germany has universal healthcare laws since the 1800s, yet Stalin's iron fist did not came crushing down on us? Well, it did, but for other reasons. Markets are no force of nature. They are made by humans and controlled by humans. They work the way we make them work. To believe that markets are somehow magically self-regulating, it's just ludicrous. There has never been an absolutely free market, because it's impossible. I am making a little spoiler now, but screw it. This movie draws heavily from the 2008 financial crisis and tries to pin it on the government, in an unbelievable twisted version of history. Yes, the government indeed is partially responsible for it, but the actual truth is a living antithesis to Atlas Shrugged. It was a total lack of regulations that allowed banks to create a bubble, and these heroes of capitalism willingly and knowingly let it happen, or simply ignored all the warnings. Their greed was not an expression of reason, but a force for self-destruction, just like all philosophers across time have said. Except Ayn Rand. Objectivism claims that if we leave the capitalists alone, we will become all more free, but in real life, the whole world has been taken hostage by them, which is something that perfectly ties into the rest of this pathetic excuse for a plot. Civilization is a product of compromises and cooperation. If a society says it's not even trying to help the poor anymore, not even trying to achieve a dignified minimum standard for all people, because some are undeserving of these things, then the value of all men is null and void. I don't know about you, but to me at least, morality is something that still holds true even after the zombie apocalypse. Because it's the truth, and it's law, and not because it's useful. And I just know that there's going to be an Ayn Rand cultist out there who will try to explain to me in a 600-page text why I'm wrong and how it is most imperative to kill such an evil and irrational person. But here's the thing, I don't care. You can talk as much as you like, but you are not going to convince me that every man for himself and those who can't afford medicine probably deserve to die is a good thing. But whatever, utopias always have been and always will be about wish fulfillment, and not the real world. So if Ayn Rand says everything the government does is evil, then it is. We cut back to Dagny, who tells her brother her latest business decision.
Is this accurate? Just one passenger train per day on the Mexican line? And one freight every other night?
Yes.
Well, how are the Mexicans going to develop the area with a single passenger train once a day?
They're not, Jim. You should know I moved everything of value out of Mexico a month ago. There's nothing there for the looters once the Mexicans nationalize.
Something is missing in that scene.
Just try. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
Better.
You know, that Mexican line was helping those destitute people get back in the game. And it was great PR for this company.
I would have happily put a railroad in Mexico if there was a reason to build up the region. I didn't see one.
Exactly. If you're born in a part of the world that has little to no resources, your life has no value. Now go fuck off and die. He's the hero. To make one thing clear, I know that businesses are not charities, and business people have a right to point that out, but the way in which these characters in this movie do it, in this snobbish, condescending, unfeeling way, I am expecting any moment one of them to say, famine is a good thing, it eliminates the surplus population. just... Ugh. Later, a man leaves Dagny's company, asking her who is John Galt. The same night, Dagny calls Hank, telling him what happened.
It's going to be okay, Dagny.
You know, when you say that, I actually believe it.
Dagny, what we're doing. My metal, your railway. It's us who move the world.
And fuck you to infinity and beyond. The German guy out, and till next time.